On Friday morning, I did something that I generally do not like to do. I couldn't really get out of it, but I did something that, if I had my preferences, I would not have done it. But on Friday morning, I talked about this morning. On Friday morning, on Good Friday, I talked about Easter. And I'd really rather not. I'd rather wait until Easter to talk about Easter. I'm one of those guys that kind of gets annoyed if somebody says to me, Happy Easter on Holy Thursday or Good Friday. I'm like, not yet. We still got a lot to get through until we get to Easter. I probably just need to chill out a little bit, but nonetheless. And yet on Friday, it worked out this way. Myself, a young man by the name of Andy Brandt, one of the most brilliant men I know, we have a little podcast together. It's nothing special. It's called Konza Catholic, like Konza Prairie, Konza Catholic podcast. We've been doing it for a number of years. A number of friends have come and gone, been part of the podcast. But because the podcast comes out on Tuesday, we knew that we had to do an Easter episode. And ultimately, the conversation that we had Friday morning, it fit. In the end, it fit, even on Good Friday, to be discussing what it was that we were discussing. And again, myself and one of the most brilliant men I've ever been around, talking about a particular question. And the question is this. It's a question, honestly, for this very morning. And the question is, what just happened? What's just happened? This resurrection thing, this Jesus, this tomb rolled away. What is it all? What does it mean? I mean, we get it. He rose from the dead. We say it all the time. But really, friends, what just happened? And as we were talking, as I was pondering that question, something I had read came to me, and I share this with you. The story of the sun in the sky and a dark cave. It goes as such. There once was a dark cave, deep down in the ground, underneath the earth and hidden away from view. Because it was so deep in the earth, the light had never been there. The cave had never seen light. The word light meant nothing to the cave, who couldn't imagine what light might be. Then one day the sun sent an invitation to the cave, inviting it to come up and visit. When the cave came up to visit the sun, it was amazed and delighted because the cave had never seen light before, and it was dazzled by the wonder of the experience. Feeling so grateful to the sun for inviting it to visit, the cave wanted to return the kindness, and so it invited the sun to come down to visit it sometime, because the sun had never seen darkness. So the day came, and the sun entered the cave, and it looked around with great interest, wondering what darkness would be like. But then it became puzzled, and it asked the cave, where is the darkness? And so now I return to the question of that episode of the podcast. What just happened? What really happened? Really, what is it that continues to happen as we ponder this resurrection of the God-man who we hung on a cross? Here's what my friend Andy said, and as a disclaimer, I couldn't go back. It's just from my memory of what he said. The episode hasn't come out yet. It comes out on Tuesday. So if I get this wrong and I fail a little bit, if this sounds smart, it's Andy's words. At any point that it sounds kind of dumb, that's my words. Those are my words. Here's what he said. talking about what the resurrection means. He says, ultimately, we as a people, both individually and collectively, we had settled for a fallen form of humanity filled with pride, envy, greed, selfishness. And it had darkened our very souls. Christ, the light of the world, showed up on the scene. And he said, no. This is an insufficient way of living, an inadequate way of life. There's a better way. Please let me show you a way where self-gift becomes the measure of greatness, not the normal things that we're jockeying about, searching for, not power, not pleasure, not possessions, not prestige, but self-gift. In the end, Jesus' teachings, his life, his goodness, his godliness caused the people, satisfied with their own fallen nature, to kill him. And I think it's important to point out, friends, that unlike the son in that story with the cave, the Son of God, Jesus, he did indeed come to know darkness. He saw it, he touched it, he felt it. And yet he overcame that darkness. Only God himself could overcome that kind of fallen humanity, that form of darkness. Only God could do it. And by dying and rising, he destroyed it. He rose from the dead. He is risen. He is risen from a perfect storm of sin and death, of humanity gone wrong. You know, we began to believe, at least for that moment, we thought that darkness had overcome the light. Yet we were wrong. Bishop Barron, on Good Friday, in a reflection, he said this: the Father sent his Son into God-forsakenness, into the morass of sin and death, not because he delighted in seeing his Son suffer, but rather because he wanted his Son to bring the divine light, the light of God himself, into the darkest of places. He sent his Son into the depths of darkness because the darkness so badly needed to rediscover what it meant to encounter light. So what is happening here this morning? What is happening with this resurrection? Union. The coming together once again of God and man. Unity with God. Our humanity being raised up so that it is once again capable of receiving the light through self-gift, which he showed us in his death and resurrection. Friends, this is a reestablished order of love and peace and good for all who dare receive it. He is risen from the dead. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.